This morning, I would like to talk to you about the importance of the annual retreat. It is probably the hardest of the team's endeavors for many teams to fulfill, but it doesn't have to be. Teams is about prayer. We talk about prayer as a couple, as a family, as a community. And in many ways, the ultimate prayer is our retreat because it's our time with God and with our spouse and perhaps even with our team. People with young children complain that they don't know what to do with their kids or they don't have anyone to take care of their children. And I would like to suggest that this can be accomplished on a permanent basis or semi-permanent basis if you simply pair up with a couple from another team and use that couple perhaps for your children to stay during your team meetings. So they establish a familiarity with the home, with the family, with the other children there. And then take turns with each other, watching the children while your team goes on retreat. Personally, my family had a really delightful experience in that when we started in teams 40 some odd years ago, our children were little. And my sister and her husband were planning a visit. They came from New York to northern Michigan. Well, it gave them an opportunity to experience our children without us around. And it was a lifetime bond that became stronger with time. The kids, my kids, gave their uncle, who had never had a nickname, and it became such an endearing quality for him that it became his email address. And this continued for the life of my brother-in-law and my sister, and my children have very fond memories. So open this as an opportunity. Don't be afraid to ask someone to care for your children. Father Caffarel mentioned that even Jesus had to get away and do a quiet time with his apostles. When they were overwhelmed by the crowd and life, basically, they got in a boat and they went away. And he refers to the retreat as a time when a team's couple can get into their boat and get away from our lives that are so hectic, so busy, so overcommitted. Use this opportunity to draw yourself closer to your God, to your spouse, and to your team. Okay.
Could you speak a little bit about what resources are available to teams?
Yes, I would love to do that. When my husband and I were super regional for the US, we discovered through our various travels that there are some teams that don't even have a priest to celebrate Mass every Sunday. There's a rotation. So we felt the need to establish ways for those teams could go on retreat. They obviously were not going to have a priest available. So we began accumulating materials. And over the years, those materials have changed. There's a list on the website. I would be delighted to talk with anybody who is trying to plan a retreat for the first time or frankly simply needs new ideas for their retreat. I have with me some of the materials that are available, and I would like to share them with you. We highly recommend the 5 love languages for a first retreat because it helps couples learn to communicate. Oftentimes, couples coming into the Teams movement have been living separate lives. They have been living together as married singles, and the need to communicate, to learn to open up to each other is truly helped by this video. We do not recommend it as a reading material, a study material, but because it does not have a very theological basis. And I also suggest that if you're using this on retreat, that we pair it with something theological. And a conversation with me on the phone or through email or text message allows me to find out what you've been studying, what your particular interests are as a team, and help you find something theological to pair with this. Some of the smaller videos that are available, or DVDs that are available, are one by Scott Hahn on the meaning and mystery of marriage. There is a great series by Father Ron Rollhauser who is an oblate from San Antonio, and he has a video called Sacred Fire, and it's an anthropologic study of marriage that's truly interesting. Let me read a little bit from the back of this for you. We are incurably sexual, deeply sexed, not only in our bodies, but in every dimension of our being. Sexuality is a powerful fire inside us, the best of all fires and the most dangerous of all fires. It is also a sacred fire, meant to be enjoyed as God's great gift to us, even as guarded by chastity. And this is a workshop that attempts to articulate both the essential anthropology and spirituality of sexuality. Another that I love of his is creating Sabbath space in our lives. It's an opportunity for us to examine what is Sabbath. It's not just Sunday, it's an attitude that is defined, or at least helps us define in this video. Retreats are periods of time that are 2 to 3 days in length. They are not a workshop. They are not a day of reflection. Just as the apostles had to go away with Jesus for a period of time in order to get away from worldly things, we too need to do that. And we cannot do that in one day. We barely have let loose our cell phone, not alone our mental attitude about what's going on in our lives. So oftentimes teams will leave and arrive for a Friday night beginning on a retreat. A good way to bridge the time between family, etc., and a spiritual attitude is to use some of the videos that are not intensely theological, but bridge in those ways. One of the videos that I think is really good is Pope Pius and the Holocaust, Pope Pius XII and the Holocaust. And it really defines what his role was during World War II, oftentimes misrepresented. Another really good movie dating in World War II, again, is actually by Pope John Paul II, and it's called The Jeweler's Shop. It deals with 3 couples over a period of time. It brings the theology and wisdom of this Pope into a very enjoyable movie. On another level, it's a journey to the heart, and this is about the life of Henry Nouwen, a very renowned theologian who is often quoted in today's world. It's a very good bridge because it does deal with the human as well as the theological. Oftentimes you will call or write and ask for material, and you have a preconceived idea of what you'd like. And that's great. I think, if a team wants to do a particular topic, that's a very important decision that you have come to as a group. But I'd like to probably ask you to expand your thoughts about what material might be most pertinent to you. We have a lot of material that is time sensitive. It's about Lent. It's about various seasons of the year, and can be quite helpful in understanding the season. Part of that will be a video by Brant Pitre. He has this wonderful series on the Jewish roots of, and this is the Jewish roots of Holy Week. We must remember Jesus was a Jew, and so much of what we celebrate is based on the Jewish tradition, including our churches and the tabernacle and the vigil light that's next to the tabernacle. Many of our customs are Jewish roots. So I would suggest thinking about using this very wonderful theologian who has a very folksy way of presenting material that is really quite deep. He also has The Jewish Roots of the Papacy. And one of my all-time favorites is The Jewish Roots of the Eucharist. He refers to the manna. He refers to the holy bread that's kept in the temple. It's truly a mind-expanding view of what the Eucharist is. And then we have two books about the fourth cup. One of them is by Scott Hahn, and the other is by Brent Petrie. This is particularly good at Easter time because it deals with the fourth cup, which was not taken until Christ was on the cross. One of my currently favorite series is by Father Pavlik, who is currently the president of St. Francis University, or Franciscan University, I guess. He started his series on the Trinity with the books or the videos of the wild goose. And in it, he explains that the wild goose is actually the Celtic way of or name for the Holy Spirit. It is a series that has 14 sessions, so far more than you could use in one retreat. But it deals about the power of God. It talks about the Holy Spirit. It talks about, let me read some of the titles to you because I think it's inclusive. God's Love Poured Out, which takes place at Niagara Falls. The Breath of God, Baptism in the Holy Spirit, the Spirit and Our Lady. The Gifts of the Holy Spirit and the Eucharist, the Spirit of Adoption, which is one of my favorites, the Spirit of and the Sacraments, the Fruits of the Holy Spirit, the Spirit in the Desert, the Spirit that Convicts, the Spirit's Freedom, the Spirit Gives Witness, and the Spirit Remembers. This is often a repeat video request. Couples or teams will use it for perhaps 3 retreats because the material is very rich and very helpful in understanding our whole theology in the Catholic Church. The second series that he did is basically on a journey with Christ into conversion, and it's called Metanoia. Both of these are available as YouTube videos. Ted and I made the decision to purchase them because things don't stay on YouTube forever. And we feel that these are kind of forever materials. This one takes place in the Holy Land and it is cinematic as well as theological. So when Christ talks about saying to Peter, upon this rock you will build your church, build my church, you're at that rock. So there is a visual that many of us will never be able to see, first of all, because of the political situation right now in the Middle East, but many of us just don't have the ability to get to the Middle East. This allows us to see the actual places where things happened, where Christ was baptized in the Jordan River, for instance. The third in this series is My Father's Father. And this is a uniquely personal video. Father Pavlik goes through the last couple of weeks, probably, of his father's life. And his father always said that when he died, that Jesus would meet him and he would show him around heaven. And they talk about that, but it's a very deep understanding of who our God the Father is and how he is reflected in our earthly fathers. I think it's particularly good for men to see, if they are fathers, because even if they're not fathers to their own children, they're often father figures to nephews or other children in the neighborhood. So it's an opportunity to get a different perspective. Also done by the 4 p.m. media is an introduction to the Mass. And it's very basic, but sometimes we need to get back to those basics and to the roots. Part 1 is why go to Mass on Sunday. Part 2 is why a meal. Part 3, why does the Mass take the form that it does? And Part 4, why does the extraordinary come to us in ordinary ways? I have literally shelves of material. There hopefully will be a picture of some of what I refer to as the bridge material, the Friday night material. But in addition to material, retreats need to be spiritual. They need time for silence. They need time for each member of the couple to be on their own, perhaps take a walk, spend time in a chapel, maybe time in front of the Eucharist, depending on where you are. And then you need time as a couple. You need time for that ultimate sit down, the one that can't happen at home when kids are knocking on the door or the baby starts crying in the middle of the night. It gives you time to just have personal space. And you can go for a walk. It doesn't have to be a sit down. You can, sit by a lake. You can sit by a fire. But the point is, you're alone with your spouse in a much more intimate way. And then also, a retreat should give you time, if you are with your other teammates, to form a new bond, a new level of acceptance, of trust. One of the retreats that Ted and I went on early in teams was one where we did trust building by simply standing on the edge of a picnic table and falling into each other's arms. And I cannot tell you how much trust it takes that your team members are going to catch you. But it also brought about a new feeling that can't be described, frankly. Retreats are an important and integral part of team life. Don't slough them off with a day of reflection. It's just not the same thing. It's been fun talking with you. Please feel free to call me. My number is 903-330-1946. I'm available most of the time, and if you leave a message, I'll call you back as soon as I can. I'd love to talk with you and make your retreat the most fruitful your team can have. Thank you.
Can you talk about how the checkout process works and how materials get returned?
Yes. When you send a request, I ask that you send your mailing address, because obviously I have to mail the material to you. There is no fee. It is simply an opportunity to use material that is available for you. I usually send the material out about 2 weeks at least in advance, so that you have an opportunity to preview it before your retreat. If it turns out not to be what you expected it to be, you have time to reorder something else. When you are finished, I ask that the material be returned the Monday following retreat in a box. It's very important, because if you put it in just a padded envelope, they come back shredded. The cases are broken because our mail is not, even in a padded envelope, is not strong enough to withstand that. Your only cost is the return mail.